It's 6 o'clock, and I'm calling the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of September 5th, 2024 to order. Yes, oh, sorry, can we give roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Johnny Narvaez.
Present.
Vice Chair Daniel Salvanas. Hector Castillo.
I'm present.
Rolando Cáceres.
Present.
Cindy E. Cantu.
Present.
Michael Barron. Dean Vilmares.
Present.
Regina Portillo.
Present.
And Adolfo G. Martinez. Okay. Mr. Chairman, for the record, you do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Motion to excuse those that are not present.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Commissioner Garcia, yes. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any citizen comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Before I open up public hearing, I just want to congratulate Ms. Vanessa Guerra on her appointment as planning director for the city of Laredo.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very kind. Thank you.
Well deserved. Open the public hearing, recommendation of an ordinance. Can I have a motion?
Motion to open public hearing 5A.
We have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item 5A, public hearing recommendation on the adoption of the updated future thoroughfare plan as Appendix D of the City of Laredo Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with everyone today. Before I go into the presentation, I do want to thank those members that were able to attend the subcommittee meeting that we did have last week. So I think we did have a very productive meeting, but thank you. We'll go ahead and move along. Again, give a little bit of the background. The future thoroughfare plan is reviewed periodically, so this is time again for the cycle to do that. And for this update, we did look at including existing plans, projects from TxDOT, the RMA, and so on and so forth. So I'll be jumping through a couple of the slides back and forth from the presentation and from our map. During the subcommittee meeting, we did get a recommendation which to add the right-of-way widths on the map, on the sketch. So we went ahead and did that for everyone for a little clarification. So that's the general overview, and we'll go ahead and jump to our initial. Let me see. All right. So the first item that we have is some realignments in the southern part of the city and down south of Rio Bravo. We have this change that we coordinated, that we received information from TxDOT. So we are doing some minor realignments of the expressway section south of Maganahan Road, and then this additional adjustment to what is the proposed Cuatro Vientos extension. And let me bring that up on our Google Earth map here. So this thin line that we have here is the old alignment, and this thicker line that we have is what's provided by TxDOT. And we have here the Cuatro Vientos extension, which before used to come this way, and now they have this extension of Espejo Molina, which will tee off here. Next up in our presentation, we have this change of a minor arterial on west of US Highway 83. We've upgraded that to a principal arterial, and we've also increased the length from a little bit further north, a little bit further south. So here is our change here on the map. Here it borders down Rio Bravo. Now we did, the suggestion was to also show some of the current master plans that we have on the area and current projects. So we have Santa Barbara here on the east of the line, and then we have Santa Elena up on the north. Now there were some questions about, so what happens with existing subdivision master plans? So those are vested. We do have, I just want to show a quick slide real quick from our subdivision ordinance with regards to the vesting. And that's called for here. There are certain sections which talk about the expirations of the plats and master plans, generally 30 months for plats and 36 months for the master plans. and also if there are substantial alterations to the development. So those substantial alterations are defined as alignments of right-of-way, change in alignments of right-of-ways of proposed arterial collectors, as well as changes in land use for those developments. So again, even though we do have the Santa Elena, Santa Barbara, Santa Elena North, they do have the vesting rights, so that, just want to make that perfectly clear. So I do know that that was a question that was brought up during our subcommittee meeting. Next up, we do have a change here from an industrial collector to a minor arterial. This is over in the Unitech area. This item was also discussed on a plat that came in. And let's go up to the northern part. Whoops. So we went ahead and provided the overlay of the Port Laredo master plan. So you can see is when we change this roadway here, now we're aligning it with their road that's under construction. And then over off to the east, we do have the Port Grande master plan. Now, again, the question about this connection here, and just to reiterate, they do have their vesting for that connection, so. Next up on the slide, we have this extension of an industrial collector in the Port Grande master plan area. We did overlay their master plan, and it was based on their recommendation for the master plan to extend that out to the outer loop, which is this purple line right here. Next up, we have this roadway on the north of Unitech as well as Majestic that extends to the east over to the proposed outer loop. And on our map, that would be this line here. Now there's an existing, I guess, call it Brecha in Spanish, path that comes along this way. And then we also did want to highlight these tracks here because this is city-owned property. So it's following along a boundary which for a track that the city does own. Next up, we have an extension of a principal arterial, kind of modifying a little bit the alignment. This is over in the Majestic area as well. And to zoom in with our overlay, this is the slight realignment here. This tract is owned by the City of Laredo. It's a sewer plant there. And this is an existing platted tract, and you can see here they've already got the corner clip for that. So we wanted to make sure that aligns properly. And this tract here is also city-owned property. And in the Majestic master plan, they do own up to here. So they've also have that projection for themselves there. Next up is an upgrade of a minor arterial within their development. That is over here to the east, cutting across. This is a realignment of this minor arterial. This, if I'm not mistaken, is the United Avenue. And this section here is what is known as the Tres X Bridge. So let me bring that here. So we did overlay this master plan that actually came in at the last P&Z meeting. This is the Manadas master plan. And this is a draft of a proposed development that we did get from the Killam property, Killam folks. So they'll probably be bringing this in the near future. And so we did adjust a little bit with their alignments because we had it down here below and we brought it further up based on their designs. And lastly, this is the final piece of the northernmost section of the Springfield extension. So here is the Bob Bullock Loop. Here's what we got going ahead and outline in red is a section or a segment of land that the city recently acquired for that final extension for that final piece. So that concludes our presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions and hopefully look for a recommendation from you for capital.
Are there any questions?
Just a quick
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Could you pull up the excerpt again, just so I can?
The excerpt?
The ordinance?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We'd be happy to
Just
do
wanted
that
to
for
see
you.
what section.
It's a little bit hard to see. Let me zoom in. So this is straight from our subdivision ordinance. and the title is it's section 2-3.5, and it talks about extensions and approval of plats.
Can you center it just a tad?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
It was a little different here, sorry about that. So for preliminary plats and final plats, they are granted the 30 months by the code, and then they are allowed a 6-month, they can request a 6-month extension. In certain plats, when they are doing flood studies through FEMA, there is a little bit of further extension where they're allowed 48 months. And master plans, 36 months, when it's up to 36 months, however, they have to continue to submit for their phases. If there's no phase that comes in anymore after the 36 months, or after the last phase of 36 months. And then the question on what is the substantial alteration. So it's these two definitions: change in alignment of right-of-way that is being proposed by the developer, or a change in land use. So let's say in their master plan they were to go from residential to commercial, or some of the use industrial, we would look at that.
Okay, so this subdivision ordinance doesn't only apply to residential?
No, it applies to all subdivisions that were to come for the single rating, whether it's industrial, commercial,
All types,
residential.
okay.
So all types that would come before the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question.
Certainly.
So regarding that item that we voted on the last meeting, by the Majestic one, by
Yes.
Port Drive. So if that's vested and already approved, it would still be in the
So we
thoroughfare
would
as a
put in the
proposal?
thoroughfare plan as a standby. So let's say they were to meet some of this one of these criteria here, then we would come back with the commission, like when that plat would come back with the commission, and say, well, we have the thoroughfare plan, and this is our recommendation of what we want, a connection here.
Okay.
Or in that, to make the connection. Okay. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Are there?
Mr. Chairman, but
Yes.
just for clarification purposes, if it's already platted and they are moving forward, you all would respect their.
Absolutely,
their plat.
we would have to,
No changes.
absolutely, and we've got the city attorney here who would make sure that, crack that whip on us.
Unless they're abandoning the
Correct,
plat
correct,
Or something, there's, again, material change in the language or the proposed alignments by the developer.
Correct.
Other than that, it goes forward as they have it planned.
Are there any other questions?
I guess, Rafa, for the next time we look at this, it was real helpful, this description of things, rather than what we received in the packet.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what kind of was a confusion, but it's really clear, especially those additional maps you had.
Gotcha.
With the aerials.
The Google Maps, yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
Google
we
Maps.
definitely appreciate your comments, and
Yeah.
obviously we want
I
to
think,
make sure
I think
that
that's
we-
where,
Well, it's for, for the commission and for the public as well, so we want to make sure that we
Right.
comply and make it.
I think that was real helpful, and I think
Absolutely.
that's
Well,
what would
thank
help. One last thing, the future thoroughfare plan itself, I don't know, I've gone to the website, and then sometimes it's tough to kind of zoom in and out of where it's at. I think it's just like a general map with where the roadways are, like a PDF. I don't think, or I don't know, is there a map that you can zoom
So
in?
what we'll do is we'll work with our IT department, I know, to facilitate this, because, so what we did with this, I mean, we've got our PowerPoint, which does show the areas that we're amending, and then, we do have that Google Earth KMZ, we did meet with IT, we have a little bit of issues trying to get that Google Earth file somehow on our website, so that the public can go ahead and download that and work with that as well as the engineer, so, I mean, we will take up on the directive, and that was also brought up with our subcommittee, some directive, we gotta figure out a way to get this.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Absolutely, thank you.
This is a public hearing, I believe Mr. Nance has a few words.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Wayne Nance with Porterhouse Engineering. I did speak with staff before this meeting, and we did speak with them earlier this week. We do take exception to one of the ones, Santa Elena subdivision that he brought up is one of our master plans. And this identifies, I don't know if we can bring this overhead up. It's something that he showed you on Google Earth, but I have it better, it's shown a little bit better here. Is he there?
Oh, there we go.
Excellent,
There
thank
we
you.
go.
Yeah, I can work with this. This is the proposed arterial that they have along the riverbanks. It's coming from Rio Bravo all the way up, but it does enter into and penetrate the Santa Elena subdivision. I know that he did mention that we do have that master plan vested right now. However, with a master plan this size, there's a very good probability that the land use might change, whereas the frontage is commercial right now, maybe we'll want it to go to a residential. In that case, we would be forced to acknowledge this, and then this thoroughfare plan, and this is a major arterial. We're talking about a McPherson. First of all, we recognize staff trying to get Rio Bravo an alternate from 83 out, but we also condemn that there is a lack of logic in putting a street that big a quarter of a mile away from US 83. And it's tying in, and it's going right through the middle of this. And what this figure does is it also shows you in blue the floodplains. And these floodplains next to the Rio Grande are ravines. They're not a little creek or something like that. So we would end up having to build this major arterial McPherson coming out of the bottom of our subdivision, and it would go to here, and there's 1,400 feet of ravine. That would never come into fruition. The extension of this on the next property owner, nobody's gonna build a 1,400-foot bridge whenever all you can do is just go out to 83. So I'm not gonna sit here and try and change staff's mind. I wanted to go on record that we're against this. We hope that they scaled this back to the next logical collector. We actually thought that the way that it was shown previously was more than adequate. It had a minor collector coming up, and then it terminated right around this area. We agree with that, but no matter what, we want to go on the record as saying we don't want this going into Santa Elena at all. I think it's just going to be a road. We'll be forced, if we do any land change, to build a major McPherson-type road to the southern part of our subdivision, and it will never, ever go anywhere, not going into a ravine like that. And that's it. We wanted to just put that on the record. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, question for
Yes.
staff then. Could you bring up the current alignment that you all proposed
Yes.
prior to the change?
I'll do both. I'll show the alignment here. So this is the current alignment is on the left, and then the proposed on the right. So I'll leave that there for a minute or a few seconds, and then I'll switch over to the Google Earth, so we can see that as well.
And the difference in the size of the minor arterial versus the proposed principal arterial.
So-
Legend was,
Here we go. So the minor arterial is 90, and the principal arterial will vary from 100 to 120.
potentially up to 40 feet more in width.
Potentially, yes. So let me jump to.
And is the engineer correct in that there is only a quarter-mile difference between where you're proposing this principal arterial and US 83? They're in parallel, and I get the parallel, obviously, I mean, we have something similar with Bartlett, for example, running in parallel with each other, and again, it's just another way to move traffic north and south.
Right, so we had done some measurements earlier, and so at the narrowest point, it's approximately 1,200 feet, so a quarter mile is 1,320, so the narrowest point is down here. Now, what we did know down here, once you get further down to Rio Bravo, at this narrowest point, we had measured it at 6,600 feet, which is over a mile. So, based on our comprehensive plan, it recommends that the principal arterials be spaced out more or less at, at least, about a mile from, so that's why we have it, the alignment starting at that point from 83, and then, at Rio Bravo going up in an upwardly direction.
Mr. Chairman, a
Yes.
question for Mr. Nance, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, my question for Mr. Nance is whether or not, do you feel that you're gonna lose your vested rights and you would be forced into this situation? Is that a possibility?
I believe
That
it
you're
would
just
be.
kind of looking out in the future, or are you saying, no, we're not gonna be ready, this is almost definitely gonna impact us?
What I would say is that I believe that with a master plan this size, there's a good chance of land use change at some point. And if this long-range thoroughfare plan is on the book, we would have to build this at the south. I have seen it where we'll come back to this commission at a later date and appeal to better judgment at that time, but it's really an uphill battle after this thing gets formalized. And what I'm asking staff to do is just the absolute minimum, is to at least pull this red line out of the Santa Elena and maybe to this next, cure. To the next cross. And as I showed you, there's a series of ravines. I would ask them to just consider that, please, before that they submit this to the city council for further review and approval. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just, and I apologize for not showing the former, so here is the current, right there.
It comes in just, what, half a mile south?
This is the proposed, and then there's a current, so it's stopping it.
Terminates right there and then comes across to 83. And that makes it look, I mean, made sense to me. It avoids two major ravines and takes a right into 83 at that point. And the size of the road seems appropriate for this area.
Mr. Chairman, and for, question for staff, can we make this recommendation to you that you scale that back? Is that something that
You can make the recommendation to council.
the council, that we could make the recommendation to approve the future thoroughfare plan as
With-
amended, with that amendment in there?
Yes, you can include that in your motion.
Motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone else who wish to speak in reference to this item, agenda item? Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would motion that we, close the public hearing and make a recommendation on adopting the future thoroughfare plan with that one amendment to it for that, specific, segment that,
To be clear-
to keep the existing alignments.
So to keep the existing, both designation as well as link.
We can improve the designation.
Oh, okay, the
Right, go to a
increase in the
principal arterial,
designation.
but to terminate it at the existing connection to the, other arterial.
Okay. That was
So
just-
right here.
Right,
Okay.
but go ahead and upgrade that to the principal arterial that you're looking for.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we'll still be able to connect 83 at that point. Now, does the new proposal include that left-hand turn or that turn back to the east to connect?
Right.
Okay, so all of that would be a principal arterial.
No, we didn't, okay, I got you. So what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, so in this segment here, to make this a principal arterial,
Correct.
gotcha.
To be able to carry that,
To
that
carry it
volume,
to the
that
right.
volume of traffic back to the right,
Gotcha.
over to 83.
Okay.
If that would make sense,
Yes.
that would be my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion with the amendment by Commissioner Belmares. Second by Commissioner Caceres. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item 5.
Motion to open public hearing 5B.
We have a motion. Second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor? Against? Motion carries. Item 5B, public hearing and introductory ordinance of Ciudad Laredo, Texas, amending by removing Code of Ordinances, Chapter 7, Building and Building Regulations, Section 7-2, same, dash amendments, Code of Ordinance, Chapters 11, Electricity, Sections 1144, same, amendments, Code of Ordinance, Chapter 25, Plumbing, Section 25-8, Permit Fees, and amend the City of Laredo Land Development Code, Chapter 24, Appendix D, permit fees by establishing a foundation-only permit and a permit fee for commercial and residential construction, and establishing a solar panel permit and a solar panel permit fee for commercial and residential construction, and establishing a process for pre-development meeting and pre-development service fee, establishing an after-hour inspection process and an after-hour inspection fee, establishing a partial inspection, re-inspection process, and a partial inspection, re-inspection fee, providing a cumulative and repealer clause, providing a servability clause, providing for publication, providing for a penalty and declaration and declaring an effective date.
Sorry for that long,
It's all right.
Good evening, Roland Lozano with the Building Department. Yes, we're here to, present this, ordinance. Basically, give you a little background. On August 10th of 2023, during the workshop for the budget, the meeting, City Council directed Building Department to establish permit fees. And I know it sounds like a long time ago, but basically, the we just adopted recently the 2021 code, which, some of these fees, could be established, such as solar panel. And so, it wasn't in the code that had been adopted. So, just to clean up, in the code of ordinances, there was permit fees. And the reason we're here is on the land development code on appendix D is where permit fees are, and so they were kind of in different places. So part of this ordinance is kind of removing all the permit fees from the code of ordinances and put them all into the appendix D. And so, chapter 7 dealt with building permit fees and mechanical permit fees. Chapter 11 was electrical permit fees. And chapter 25 was plumbing permit fees. So we're basically striking those out and saying refer to appendix D. And in the land development code under the appendix, we're going to, we wanted to establish a permit fee for foundation, which is a permit that we're already doing. It's just, basically the building codes allow for, when you have a big development such as warehouse, they want to get started on moving dirt and setting a foundation. Well, they can go for a foundation only permit, and so we were already allowing that, but we just couldn't charge for that. So this is a voluntary permit, right? Like they don't need to, if they want to start on the process, that would be a permit that we are proposing to now have a process. We have a process, but to establish a fee for that. The other one was solar panel permits. We don't have a solar panel permit. So currently there's a lot of solar panels being installed in the city of Laredo, and we're basically just issuing a electrical permit to, the difference between, getting it from solar panel to actual electrical. So, but now the code allows regulation on distances. Don't put them all together. You gotta have a certain space from the edge of the roof and in between the panels if you ever need to maintenance them. So right now, the code 2021 code establishes how to regulate it, right? And so it recently got adopted, right? It's actually gonna go into effect September 22nd of this month. So we're waiting for that to be adopted by city council, which it was adopted. And so that's one of the permit panel process that we're gonna establish, and we need to charge a fee. We couldn't charge a fee because we needed to come to council for that. Also, pre-development meeting, we do that already as well. Developers come into town or they wanna talk about it, and we get fire department, engineering department, all these departments to come in and explain. And so we wanna be able to establish a process and charge a fee for that, for the time that that staff is there from the various departments. Other cities do this as well, so all these fees and the other cities, we looked at that as well. And establishing and basically a partial and reinspection fee, because the old land development code had fees. I'm sorry, am I being not, I'm hoping I'm being coherent here. So establishing a reinspection process and inspection fee. We get a lot of, on the land development code, some of the reinspection fees were $10 for, say, a plumbing, and then some of them were $50. So we want to put all reinspection fees to be a standard price, and basically we wanted to introduce this to council and to planning zoning. So I don't know if you guys have any questions specifically.
I just have a problem with so many fees. I just think when it comes to solar panels, why are we charging professionals that do it for a living? Why, we're just trying to hop on the bus and say, but I wanna get some of that money, for y'all's time and bringing everybody in, that's what taxpayers pay for. So we can present that, well, we're gonna pay for their hour or 2 hours at the meeting. I just think we're trying to find ways just to charge everybody and bring up prices. I don't believe in that, I'm sorry. It's my personal opinion.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a whole slew of them, but I'll defer to my colleagues if they have questions as well. Can I ask which cities are currently charging solar panel fees or some of these other, pre-development meeting fees? I'm just curious as to, again, like the former councilman said, it just seems like we're adding fee upon fee just because so-and-so does it, or, in our view, it's something you guys already do. I mean, if I went to the Economic Development Division and said, hey, I want to build this particular warehouse, I would think that you all would be incentivized to bring whatever departments into this meeting and say, yeah, we can help you with this, and this, and align everything, because you want the tax base, not necessarily the fee. The fee is minuscule compared to what it'll generate in terms of a tax base.
Well, the permit is to go out there and inspect to make sure.
Well, inspection fees are one thing, and you speak about these, Mr. Lozano, you speak about those clearly, and I'm okay with inspection fees. But a pre-development meeting fee, that just seems like something that you all would be incentivized to move people through the process as fast as you could. So again,
But we already do that.
so then why add a fee to it? I'm not understanding the.
To establish, well, we want to establish a process, because right now, the process is whenever we want to be able to do it when it's convenient to staff. Hey, let's meet on this meeting, give me a site plan, what it is that you're proposing, what kind of questions you have for your head time. And sometimes, these meetings can go on and on and on, and it takes not an hour, it may take a lot longer. And so it does take some valuable resources from the city, other departments, to answer these questions, and then some of these projects don't ever come to fruition, because of the information that we give them. I could come to mind the corner of McPherson and Fenwick. It's been vacant for a while for a reason. And people come in and everybody wants to develop it, right? And then they say, okay, wait, traffic and this. And so once they hear staff's comments and they start looking, we're basically doing a feasibility study for development. And so, because at least that's how staff sometimes has to, we've said this already, but it's different developers. And so, it's just a way for us, not to say we don't want to do it, it's just to establish a process and to establish, you got an hour to answer these questions, or kind of that's what we're thinking of doing for that. I would certainly take your comments and adjust whatever it is,
I thoroughly understand the process. Trying to develop a process instead of a checklist, something you can send potential clients. They get on the website, they can look at a checklist, a questionnaire, whatever it is you want. What I don't understand is the fee side of it, right? This is something you all do already. And if you could streamline that process, you could reduce the amount of time that you all have to spend with them. So I would encourage you to create the process and then test that out before you come back and say, I need to have a fee to go with that.
Okay.
Again, a lot of developers and those that have been doing this for some time will go to an engineering firm, and discuss what their entitlements are, what they can do. They already know from what their experiences have told them over the years of doing business in our community, what those potential developments could be, what zone they could get, what utilities they would have to have, all those things that they wouldn't necessarily go to you all for. So they're going to pay a fee over there. And now if they've got to go present that to you as well, now we've added an additional fee. At what point do we start discouraging development? Because it's easier to go to McAllen or some other place, and they have a checklist, they fill that out, they submit it in, somebody says, yeah, let's have a meeting for 1 hour, we'll go through your checklist, and then get this back over to your engineer and submit a plat or a master plan, and they all go on. So I'm a little concerned that we're just adding not just another layer to the development process, but also adding an additional cost, especially at a time when it may not be good for us to keep adding fees.
Well, I would want to say.
Just to add a little bit. As we all know, budgets are very tight, we just went through our budgeting process, and we all have, needs, our departmental needs. that, you know, quite frankly, our budgets could not accommodate. City management has been very adamant that our departments review our fee structures to ensure that we are charging the appropriate amount for the services that we are providing, in line with the cost to provide those services. So the city is absorbing those costs to provide those services. With regard to the pre-development meetings, we've seen meetings that go on 3-4 hours, that you'll have more than 15 people there attending, you know, they're taking a half of a day to just review one project. So that takes away from their work, their work day somewhere else, and there is no limitation. That over and over and over, and much of this information is available to the public through our portals, through our codes, but they do want that individualized, you know, tell me what the code says, tell me what the, you know, show me where the permit, the forms are. What does the form say? How do I fill out the form? Those sorts of things. So those are some of the things that we're trying to address with the establishment of these fees. These are directives that have come forward, that all of the departments are to be reviewing their fees, and in order to ensure that the fees that we're charging do cover the cost. To be clear, we will be reviewing our fees as well. The planning department, the fees that are charged in no way cover the services that are provided. So the development process is heavily subsidized, on the order of the fees that we charge for our services, not even, 20% of the budget, the cost to provide those services. So the development process, the city is absorbing those costs. So that's what we're trying to do.
And if I may also, the pre-development meeting is not a requirement, right? We could answer through email if you have these questions, we could answer, but if they choose to want to set up a meeting and have that one-on-one with staff, that's what we wanted to create a process and establish a fee and kind of set guidelines and that kind of stuff. And I hear you that maybe we don't need to maybe start the process. I hear you. We'll put that down. We're just trying to come forward and clean up some of the stuff that on the fees and inspection fees and stuff like that were kind of 50 here, 10 here, and it was very different. So.
Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess, as Ms. Guerra just mentioned, there's some things coming up. We're dealing with the park space ordinance as well. It's talking about fees. You guys are now coming to us. Planning will be coming to us. But the thing for us is we're seeing this for the first time, right? And we see the need. At least I recognize the need. Obviously, council does, and ultimately it's our recommendation to them. But the process of how we're doing this is where the issue arises, right? Because to rubber stamp this and just send it up is not doing it its due justice, right? Meaning, like, can we have a comparison with 5-6 border cities that are doing this, or maybe they are, maybe they're not, what are they doing? And I'm sure you have those answers as well, right? But to have this now and just send it, which for me probably makes sense. I did notice you were taking out a lot of stuff, a lot of little minor fees that were there, hopefully kind of just putting it all together as one fee, which makes sense, right? Hopefully makes sense. But I think that's where we're headed with this, as far as being cautious about it. But again, I do recognize that there's a need. I'm sure, when was the last time this was reviewed?
For the recreational building development services, we did do a comparison with other cities. For example, El Paso, San Antonio, Houston, Brownsville, and Austin. They do charge pre-development services fee in different amounts. For example, Houston and Brownsville, they don't charge a fee. Austin charges $332.46. San Antonio, $100. El Paso, $125 an hour plus a tech fee. This was supposed to be brought since 2 years ago to you all. It had been budgeted for this year for other purposes or reasons, it was never brought up to you all. So it was budgeted for next fiscal year effective October. So this is what we're bringing it to you all. We apologize if this was never brought, before.
But when were the last fees revised? When was the last time this, like, how long have we had these fees in place?
The inspection fees hadn't been revised, that,
Since
no, it's
2005.
it's in the land development code, so it really was, it was always permit fees, right? And
So, yeah,
inspections,
my point is obviously, right?
Right.
Whatever amount of years it's been, I'm sure, you know, we all understand the costs have changed. So the justification should be, what are the other cities doing? And we should be on par or related to them based, because that's where we're at. And if we can say, you know, we're charging this much or this much for the other fees, or maybe all the fees.
Everybody's charging to, well, with all due respect, solar panel fees, commercial, electrical, residential, your MEPs, food truck, new business, TCOs, re-inspection fees, after-hour inspection fees.
But what I'm saying is, the setting for that information could be at another meeting prior to this one, to be able to say, look, these are all the solar panel fees that are charged from 100 cities in Texas, and they all charge $50 or $100 or whatever it is. That's the recommendation to this committee on why we want these fees in place. This is the, whatever other building fees you may charge and what, all of it with reason, right? And not double or quadrupling what it is that we're charging now. So if we can have a separate meeting, again, also take a look at this at another time, maybe by itself, I think that'd be a good idea.
I think, real quick, and what Mr. Belmar said, that, did we also get a study on how long it takes them to have a meeting? If they're structured, like you said, if they have a checkoff, you know what, you're in here for 40 minutes, that's all you have, and not running to 4 hours. How organized is the department? How smooth is it running compared to everybody else? You can be running the same meeting in Austin, and I'm out of there in an hour, but I'm over here and I'm out of there in 4 hours. Something's wrong with the system. So I'd like to see that comparison too. What the time that they take to what we take? How much time do we give them? Then they come in and you got 30 minutes, I'll give you 50 more, that's it. But I'd like to see both comparisons, not only the price, but the actual, process.
And Mr. Chairman, my concern again with this particular is that the creation of those new fees is buried in cleanup. So if you want to clean up the ordinances, bring that first. Let's clean up the ordinances. Hey, this is in the wrong section. This needs to go over here. Fine. These are brand new fees, brand new processes or permits that you want to establish. Then that should be a separate discussion. And then we should see why you want to establish those and how you're going to go about regulating one, the processes, all of that in separate discussion. Because there's cleanup items in here, right? That you need to move, close out from this chapter and move it to this appendix. Those items, that's easy for us to take care of. So yeah, absolutely, that's administrative cleanup. But then you're looking at establishing fees here, and we don't have a real rhyme or reason based on what you've given us here, other than, well, so the city's doing it, that city's doing it. Well, those other cities may be doing.
Even though they're new fees, sorry to interrupt, even though they're new fees and they've been budgeted for next fiscal year?
Yes.
It's part of our budget?
Absolutely. I mean, again, this year has been brought to us way before and also brought to us with a lot more background, a lot more information. Some of the research that you all did to get us to this point. It's never a good policy to do something because they do it, right? It's a good policy to do it because we need to, because our processes are broken, or our budgets are under strain. Any one of those things is great, but bring the background to go with it. Just because Austin does it, well, Austin has 1,000 other fees that I don't ever want to see come to Laredo, right? Just wouldn't make sense for us to do those here. We're not over a recharge zone, so San Antonio's going to have some ordinances and some restrictions because they're over a recharge zone. Well, why would I have an ordinance that does that here or a fee that does that here? Again, bring the background that goes with it, justify why it is you want to do these things, and I'm sure, again, at the end of the day, we have to make a recommendation. That's all we get to do. Council will make the ultimate decision.
Okay.
And management obviously is going to support what you all, and hopefully what your research indicates should be done, right? But we'd like to see that research too.
Also, if I may, to give the commission a fair chance to overlook, I know we get the packet, 4 or 5 days prior to our meeting, but a lot of times there's a lot of questions that we cannot answer as we're reviewing. So I think before you ask us to give some sort of recommendation, I think it would be best to either present, have us overlook, ask the questions like we're asking today, and then on the next meeting, then at that point, ask for some sort of recommendation, because a lot of times there's a lot of questions and a lot of unanswered things that we need, answer or clarification. So it's just difficult for us to make a decision when there's so many fees that we're just trying to glance through, and then you want us to give a recommendation, and it's difficult on the fly.
So to be clear, you're wanting a meeting just to explain it and then another meeting to come up with, or?
No, just at that point, we can ask the
Okay.
questions, and then at the next meeting,
Okay.
we can give the recommendation if
So
there's.
not like a subcommittee meeting?
I mean,
something, I
at
don't
this
know.
point, they may ask for
Yeah.
it because we're just giving it this at this
They're
point.
gonna decide what they're gonna do.
Mr. Chairman, if
We're gonna wait
you, I
and
mean,
see
if you
what
look
they-
at what
Yeah,
and
yeah.
staff did for the thoroughfare plan, not only did they have a subcommittee, and that was separate aside, but what they brought today was a side-by-side. This is what it looks like before, this is what it looks like now, this is what it looks like if you took an
Okay.
aerial view. Give us more information for us to look at and to digest.
Yes.
And this is a public hearing.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, for the record, my name is Jesus Reese. You've seen me here before, I'm the owner of Reese Homes. I looked at this particular ordinance and the changes that they were proposing, and really the only thing that I had exception with on the ordinance, and how, I tried to find out, the building permit fees, I guess it doesn't affect residential. And basically, my understanding is that they're adopting the schedule that's in the new ordinances that we're adopting, that says, okay, well, now, instead of we're charging, the valuation was $100 a square foot, based on the new, code of ordinances, the table says 120, so they wanna adopt the 120. I usually don't agree with them, but, I guess what I'm trying to say is the only, these fees are, I think they're very reasonable. I think if somebody can just walk in and take staff's time, yes, there's a point in time for that, but, is everybody there? Kinda like, okay, well, you want everybody to be there? It's only $250, and a lot of people that have, projects of several $1 million, $250 in the overall scheme of things, and a project that size is not a big number to get all the information. They're gonna save it in their staff. So that, the foundation only, I mean, they had a process before that they weren't charging for. Okay, now in other words, okay, we issue a permit, it's a valid permit, as opposed to saying, si, comienza, no comienza, that it's not in the ordinances. The pre-development meeting, that's the one I was talking about. The solar panels, I can tell you that I've had, instances in my homes, I don't know if they're actually inspecting the solar panels, or they're not inspecting them, and that's why there's a fee here, so they can actually go do an inspection. But typically, when I go to a closing with one of my clients, I tell them, do not, because I've seen the solar panels proliferate all over town, and it's new construction. I mean, we're building the homes to the most, to different standards. Solar panels, my home that's 30 years old, no te digo nada, ¿verdad? If it wasn't for trees that I have there protecting my roof, or protecting the shade, the number of hours that the sun hits my roof, I tell you, pues I'd be considering solar panels. But what I tell my clients is live in the home for at least 18 months, look at the bill, and then if somebody comes knocking on your door on the solar panels, you tell them, okay, what's the number that you're telling but my number is actually this, so give me a new analysis, and then ask the questions of, what does it do to my mortgages? When it's time to sell the home, and then make a decision. So I think, a solar panel, to actually go do work, you need a permit. I have no problems with them. The one that I do, after our fees, I mean, to make staff available, to go do an inspection after hours, some people wanna pay that. If they can't do after hours fees unless they're increasing them, are you increasing them?
Yes, we are increasing them, and again, this is only, a reinspection is only if it didn't
No,
pass.
I'm talking about after hours.
Or after hours. is if they request it. It's not a mandatory fee. It's only if they're choosing, I need you to come now.
But do you have a
Okay,
fee for
we
that?
we don't have a fee for that. So that's the thing, and to clarify also Mr. Ruiz's point, the actual valuation of per square foot, that ordinance already went in and already got passed, at city council, right? So,
Because they adopted the codes.
right, we adopted the codes and we adopted a valuation chart, but that's for commercial use only, it's not for residential. So, so commercial use, depending on the type of construction and per square foot, the code says this is how much construction should cost. And that valuation table is only for the amount of the permit fee. We're not saying you need to spend this amount of money, we're saying this is how much our permit fee will be for this. Don't, like, sometimes they come in and they lowball it, and so we need to say, does it match what the code says? That's all what that's for, is to determine a permit fee.
So the one that I have exception with is the re-inspection fee of $150. I take exception with that because I feel a re-inspection should be a learning experience. In other words, it's kind of like you have a new builder, they come in, you know, the fee, you know, the home doesn't pass, for whatever reason, it's a learning experience, not a punishment because you didn't pass. Now, if you have somebody that's a chronic builder that just, you know, no le entra un hacha en la frente like me sometimes, you know, okay, then you know, they went through it, they went and re-inspected it. We don't usually fail inspections. I'm just saying, because I'm a thickhead on other matters, but typically we don't fail inspections. So to me, it doesn't, I can't remember, you know, if they don't pass me, I'm gonna go and they know, we're gonna have a meeting and let's look at the interpretation of the code. And that's my typical deal because I just don't wanna add cost to my homes, right? So I think, if you all maybe wanna reconsider and make a motion to approve this tonight with some changes, I would say that, the $150 be, okay, you know, set up you know, the first 3 inspections are at 50. It's a habitual, okay, it goes up to 100, and then every one after that goes up to 150, and that'll, you know, promote harmony between the inspections and the department, and it also gives them a, you know, an incentive to comply with the ordinance, but instead of the typical stuff in construction, a ver si pasa, you know, a ver si pasa. You know, that's the typical, so those kind of trades, you want to get them out of the, you know, you want to get them out of your system. You got, and this would be a way of doing it, but do it in stages, not all de un guamazo, from one day to the next.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Are there any other questions?
Just a final
Yes,
comment.
sure.
I think, just to kind of echo what the other commissioners said, I think what we're missing is that business case, which you have the numbers, you've done the research. So us being able to see it in a presentation form so that we can review ahead of time, because you're saying $200 for a solar panel fee, where San Antonio is only $100, why the 200? Like, give us the rationale. And then I know that we're trying to streamline things, but at the same time, maybe some complexity is appropriate in certain sections. Like if you want to create certain tiers of, if a project is taking longer than usual, then kind of putting those additional fees if it's taking longer. So that the person who only takes 30 minutes of your time versus 6 hours is not paying the same fee. Kind of getting a little creative with that to kind of target the pain points that the department is having. Thank you.
Thank you.
The same thing, I agree with what he said, but I disagree on the way it's presented to us. It wasn't presented to buy on into it. I think the way they presented it earlier, that's what we want. We want something structured. Why is it happening? What are we doing? I think that's what we owe it.
Okay.
So my motion is to,
Well, thank you. Okay. Are there any other comments from the general public?
my motion is to close and create a subcommittee.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second.
Just as a comment.
Yes.
Should we, before we take up, I guess, more staff time, should we ask for that presentation, look over it, and then
Yes.
decide?
Agree. If we need to go further.
Yeah, because it sounds like they already have this
And
information,
let's bring that
so
the next meeting.
we can review it on our own if that works.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a way to do
If
it.
you want to be on the subcommittee.
No,
Well, no,
we
no.
also-
So are we gonna?
I'm working on the parks,
Well,
so.
whatever Mr. Garcia would like to, you
Yes.
want to change your motion?
Would you prefer the subcommittee or you want to just wait for
Just the
the?
presentation. Yeah, the presentation.
Okay, so. So to clarify the motion, you wanna close public
Oh,
hearing?
close and recommend a
presentation.
presentation to us. So we can have it for the next meeting.
Times for the next meeting, okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Garcia,
And a second by Commissioner Barron.
second by Commissioner Barron. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Motion to open public hearing 5C.
We got a motion? We have a motion? Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Guttis, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Item 5C, amending parkland dedication ordinance, amending Article 3, Section 24.56.1, purpose, Section 24.56.2, general requirements, Section 24.56.3, time requirements for park improvements, design and consideration, Section 24.56.4, special fund, 24.56.6, park and open space master plan consideration, 24.56.10, Appendix A and Appendix B of the Parkland Dedication Ordinance within the Laredo Land Development Code.
Good evening. At the last meeting, it was requested that we,
Your name for the record, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Anita Stanley, Assistant Director, Parks and Recreation Department. So at the last meeting, it was requested that we form a subcommittee and meet with them to discuss options and different ideas. So we did. I'd like to thank the members of the Park Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the Parks Board. So we did have a mixture, and the feedback was very positive. It was also very appreciated. So we believe bringing this forward was the first step initially when we came here at the last planning and zoning meeting. We'd like to continue meeting with the subcommittee meeting to continue the progress that we started having, so we can rise to the challenges that we currently have at the Parks Department and meet those, find a goal, find a resolution to the issues, the challenges that we have. So we request to table this item today so that we continue with the subcommittee and get to a resolution.
And I'd just like to,
Yes.
quick comment for that. We're part of the subcommittee, myself and Mr. Caceres. We had a good meeting, good dialogue. We're getting an understanding of the need, right? They're preparing some things for us as well. We met with the Parks Board Committee as well. So there was 3 members from the commission and 3 members from the Parks Board. We did have maybe 1 or 2 developers, and maybe I think it was Mr. Reese, who's everywhere. Hold on, sir, 1 minute. He's really good, he's helping out, I think that's what we need, maybe some more folks like that, and we're inviting those folks as well, like that. We streamline it, we have a good idea of what we're doing, and bring it to the commission.
Thank you for your comments. Do you have a comment before we table this item?
Just a comment that, thank you again for the record, this is Reese. Just a comment that I made at that subcommittee. I found out about it like 20 minutes before the meeting was gonna happen. And when the original ordinance was drafted, I made that comment there, the component of that committee that drafted the ordinance, I was there. I thought I was working for Armadillo at the time, but I was already on my own. I helped with the drafting of the ordinance. Danny Wires helped with the drafting of the ordinance, and Rolly Ortiz from Killam. So the committee actually had representation from the development community, a builder, a large developer, a medium to small developer, and then there was the other members, which comprised of including Miguel Pescador, Nathan, the chairman of the P&Z at the time. So we were in the minority, and I think the test of time has proven that the draft of that ordinance was good. So I suggest to you all that you consider maybe reaching out to council and saying, you know, can you assign, you know, some members that is a minority, but that you get the guys that are there out in the field. I had a spreadsheet that I was gonna present to you. I don't wanna take up your time. But I think, you know, when we look at these things, you know, sometimes there's unintended consequences. And, you know, we forget about the families that are trying to buy their first home. You know, so when you take money from them, you know, for these fees, and, you know, yes, they make some good comments, okay, try to get the developers to do it because it's less expensive, but anything that you increase to us, you know, there's a 20 to 30% margin. So a $2,000 fee ends up being, you know, or $2,000 fee ends up being a $2,900 fee. And it's not because we're trying to be greedy, it's because of transaction costs and interest costs, sales commissions, you know, it's all those things that come and I just think we need some basic services in the parks, and then we need to find other mechanisms to put you know, the ideal park. But at least, you know, get it started with some basic, you know, improvements in the park that they can use. And when we did that deal, we went, you know, ad nauseum. I mean, we went through that ordinance, and we were talking about that a little earlier. You know, it took time to get it done. I think, you know, some of the revisions that are in there now, I did a quick glance on it. I have some questions on there, not for this, you know, meeting, but I ask that you all consider getting the industry involved at a minority. In other words, if you already have 6 members, you know, add another 3 members, so that you get the guys that are in the front lines. You get the guys that are, you know, seeing the families struggle to make their payments. Because based on what's there, it's like a $30 a month. If they have to finance it, by the time you transfer it to the consumer, it's a $30 a month payment for the next 30 years at 6 3/4% interest rate. You know, versus $7 today.
Yeah, those are some things we discussed and we're looking at as members of that commission.
Thank you, Mr. Reese.
Thank you.
So the Parks and Rec Department has requested to table this item time uncertain.
Yes, please, give us an opportunity to have some substantial discussions and come up with a plan that will be acceptable to all, to be able to help the Parks Department actually do what we need to do, right, for the community, as well as the developer, because we are definitely pro-development, that's what we do. So that would be great. So when we feel we're ready with the subcommittee, we'll bring it back.
All right. Thank you. Motion to close the public hearing and table time uncertain.
And remand to the subcommittee.
I'm sorry?
And remand back to the subcommittee.
And remand back to the subcommittee.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barron,
Second.
second by Commissioner Belmontes. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you. We're moving on to review and consideration of the following master plan. Agenda item 6A, review of the revision of Los Presidentes East Master Plan, the intent is residential, multifamily, and commercial. The purpose of this revision is to reconfigure phases and lots.
Yes, for the record, the applicant is Hilltop Farms, Engineers Holland Engineering and Surveying. Proposed use is residential, multifamily, and commercial. The zoning for this 735 lot development is AG, R1A, and B4. Location view. The aerial view. The revised master plan. Staff comments planning. Fire. And traffic. And the proposed motion.
Thank you. Ms. Engineer.
Good evening, members of the commission. Dana Without with Howland Engineering. Here to represent our client, and we concur with staff's comments.
Are there any questions?
I have a few questions, on this master plan. And some of it, I guess, are some questions for parks as well, here. I'm trying to get my bearings straight on this master plan, but I don't see any park dedication here or.
I can explain.
Okay, thank you.
So let me show you something.
For your name for the record, please.
Elizabeth Kerr, the Parks Planner for the City of Laredo. So you see the section Phase 6, that was a proposed park that we wanted to build, and we had everything, but we actually don't have enough money to build this park, so this is a perfect example of why we can't actually develop parks. And so, if you see the purple diagram, that was gonna be the proposed park, but again, like our budget didn't have enough, because we had to return the cash and lieu fees, and when we did the budget, we just don't even have a third to pay for it.
So then this area was a proposed park in their previous master plan?
No. We had determined that we were going to think about doing a park here, and I got the city council member to look at all the plans, and she said, well, we have some other areas
Right.
here like Las Misiones nearby, and she said that, well, that park's already there, so we can just put that money into that park.
Got it. So then we ended up getting the funds instead of the land for this development?
Yes.
Now, next to it, and I don't know, there's a lot of, the 100-year floodplain all in this area along, Cuatro Vientos. Does that, and it seems like here, and it's, maybe I'm going to both, right? But there's a Phase 7 in the middle of the detention pond. Does that mean this is going to be potentially developed? And that middle white, I know I'm talking about the area in H to Phase 6, Phase 7. It says detention, yet there's a phase in it. Is that like a phase to build a detention pond there?
My understanding is that it's going to stay detention. It was just, to be included in Phase 7 in the commercial, if developed, if any improvements need to be added to the pond.
Okay, and then I guess it's gonna be questions to staff also. I guess Phase 6, one of your comments was to identify that as far as is this one of the reasons why it's coming back?
That is correct. So there was a change in Phase 6 and in Phase 4.
What was the other phase?
Phase 6 and 4.
Phase
So phase
4. Okay, now, so Phase 6, is that going to be multifamily?
It's gonna be single family now.
It's going to be single family, not multi?
No, so what is now designated as Phase 6, used to be single family, so now they have it as, multi.
So how many units can fit in that area of multifamily?
I would not have that answer.
I don't have that answer, but I can get it.
And just because of the impact multifamily would have there in that area is my only concern, right? So if we're saying there's gonna be 100 dwelling units there, potentially, right, depending on the amount of what you can do there, and I don't know how much is buildable and how much isn't. But if there is, then the significance of that in that area could cause a lot of traffic, which leads me to the next question is, if we're gonna have 100 dwelling units there, are they all gonna come in through Cozumel and into that phase, or are we gonna incorporate into that Phase 6, that section of Jalapa, so there can be another access point to this lot or this phase?
I don't have the answer for you, but I can bring this up and, we'll get that information.
Yeah, because it's important, right? Because if we're gonna do a lot, we don't want a lot of traffic coming in through the residential area into this area. And I don't know if Phase 6 incorporates that street of Jalapa into this phase to make sure we have that secondary point, or if it requires a secondary point of access, or does it? And if it does, then we should include it into that phase. And, would you know, Vanessa?
What I can say about that, so the good thing is that they do have the collector on Jalapa, and they do have that other connection on Phase 12. So when their development comes in on the, for their site plan, once they start going to construction, they'll work with fire, and that'll be a good access point for secondary access for fire and emergency services.
But can we ask them to include it right now within this phase, that section of that street? And the only reason is if within this master plan, there's already, Los Presidentes, which is built out, right? Which I believe the city built that roadway. And the other point for this master plan is Jalapa, which ends up being Lago del Valle, right? And that was my other question. Should it all be Lago del Valle, or should it run Lago del Valle east to west all the way to Cuatro Vientos? Or is it already Jalapa at that point? Because it connects to Lago del Valle, which ends up being to to Bonnie Garcia, right? So in order to help this master plan, I was, you're considering that you want to get east-west traffic also, especially with this, this is the only other point connection to Cuatro Vientos from here to 359. So we'd want to make sure we get this roadway sooner rather than later, earlier in the phases, to try to get this connection. So especially if it's one connection that we can get to our traffic out of the school, another secondary point, right? Other than having to go down to Los Presidentes, right? So, and if that's the case, then, or if it's not needed, then what would a traffic impact, maybe it's not, right? Maybe they can provide a traffic impact study saying that it's not. But until then, I'd rather maybe even, and I know I'm sorry, to bring some of this stuff up, but I think it's a critical roadway in this area. I think we need a lot of east-west movement, especially along 359 and Cuatro Vientos. And if we can get that information, I'd be more comfortable with this. But I do feel that it is a good roadway that's needed. Even connecting staff on the Cuatro Vientos, it's a 60-foot right-of-way, but right across it, Jalapa on the other end is another 60-foot, but yet it seems like it has a little bit more right-of-way to be able to come in and out. And I don't know if we would ask for that now that the master plan is in front of us, to ask for maybe an 80 or at least the entrance to be able to get that right-of-way now, eventually to be able to get traffic in and out. I don't know what the standard is for entrances for roadways like this along Cuatro Vientos.
Well, it's not on the thoroughfare plan, so it's not designated, correct? This is not.
It's not on there.
This is not a designated roadway on the thoroughfare plan. So at this point, it would follow the existing.
Like on the opposite side, Vanessa, I don't know, and I don't know what the measurement is on the other entrance, because it's kind of similar, or for Jalapa on the Los Presidentes on the other side.
On the west side?
Yeah.
And, if we're looking at the same thing, it's 60.
But it seems like the right-of-way access, the clips, yeah. I'm not talking about the whole roadway being 80. I'm just
So
talking
you're
about
talking like let's say the apron to connect?
Yes.
So that design will come in when they work with TxDOT. So as that phase is coming in, so in the planning process, one of the comments that always comes up is, okay, you coordinate that connection with TxDOT. So TxDOT will help them with a design for the apron to determine the right of way at that point. So they'll need the corner clips and to develop the
Right, in order to make sure we get the
right. But that'll be a coordination with TxDOT.
or on the preliminary when it comes in.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, and I don't know when the other phases of that is going to come in, like for that commercial area along Cuatro Vientos. Phase 7, or when the developer plans, or which phases he plans to develop first. Would you know?
No, sir, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I would recommend that we postpone or table the item for the next meeting, and maybe we can have some of these.
An update.
Yeah,
Second.
an update to this.
Are you okay with it? Are you okay with it? Recommendation to postpone?
To postpone for the next
You
meeting?
okay? Yes? So your recommendation, your motion is to postpone time certain? Yes, sir. Time certain?
Yeah.
So we have a motion to postpone time certain by Commissioner Barron. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to consideration of following preliminary plats and preliminary replats. Item 7A, preliminary consideration for the plat of NDHR Industrial Park Phase 5. The intent is industrial.
Yes, sir. For the record, the applicant is Verde Corp. Engineer is Boras Nance Engineering. Proposed use is industrial. The zoning for this 24 lot development is HE and M1. Location view. Aerial view. The proposed plat, page 1, page 2, and page 3. Staff comments planning. Fire. And traffic safety. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Wayne Nance, Porterhouse Engineering. We agree with all of staff comments. We're here for any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Nance? Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the revision subject to staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blanes, second by Commissioner Portillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item 7B, preliminary consideration of the replat of lots 1B, 1C, and 1D, Block 1, Central Freight Line Truck Plat, and lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Texas Community Bank at I-35 Plat into Lot 1, Block 1, Lovett Industrial Plat. The intent is industrial.
Yes, sir. The applicant for the record is Levet Industrial. The engineer is Topside Civil Group. Proposed use is industrial. The zoning for this one lot development is M1. Location view. Aerial view. As platted and the proposed replat. Staff comments planning. Fire. Traffic safety. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. Ricardo Villarreal, Topside Civil Group. Here to concur with staff's comments and answer any questions anybody may have.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
some questions.
Sure.
Could you expand a little bit on the current plans that TxDOT has for that ramp that's supposed to be there, and sort of how we can coordinate to avoid any traffic issues before that ramp is there?
Yes, can we get the aerial on here? Sure. Oh, that's good. Okay, so, hopefully, as most of us are aware, TxDOT just finished improvements in this area. What they did is they, before the highway used to go under the railroad, they not only realigned it, but horizontally but vertically as well, to where now the highway goes above the railroad. That was phase 1 of the project. It really was the main lanes and a little bit of work on the frontage roads. The entrance that you see right by, I believe that's Legacy Gym, that was pre-existing before they did this work. This frontage road was a two-way frontage road before completion of this project. Right almost at our southern boundary line, TxDOT switched that frontage road to one way going north. And then from our southern boundary line, it's still two-way, pretty much right in front of the Border Patrol station. This is, according to the schematics that I've seen, the final entrance location of where TxDOT has it. At this point, phase 2 of the project actually includes the frontage roads. Frontage roads completely going north, going northbound and then southbound as well. Those frontage roads would be going over the railroad tracks. But what phase 2 does is it keeps the traffic away from the residential neighborhoods. So that you would get on the frontage road, go over the railroad tracks, get on an entrance that's past the intersection of Loop 20 and I-35 going up north. That is, hope I got to answer your question, but according to, I dealt with the development just north of this, so I had some extensive conversations with TxDOT on how all this was gonna work. And that's pretty much what I remember off the top of my head.
Do you recall them talking about timelines for phase 2?
No, I don't think, and again, off the top of my head here, I'm trying to breakthrough that my memory, based on their capital improvement presentation that they probably had a couple of months ago, where they laid out projects under construction, projects in the near future, projects that are fully funded, and they gave timelines. Phase 2 wasn't on any of that presentation that I remember. So it comes with kind of like the territory, the way TxDOT has. Hopefully the federal government sends more money down, and now this is on their improvement plan, TxDOT's version of capital improvement plan. But as far as their 5-year, I guess, outlook, I haven't seen it on there.
And a question for staff. What are like the possibilities of how this commission can kind of help recommend a traffic plan, any kind of considerations for this area, and ultimately prevent those trailers from going into the residential areas?
I can add just a little bit. I was lucky enough to be invited to traffic last week, and they were meeting with TxDOT. They have their regular meetings, but this was one of the projects that we talked about extensively with TxDOT. So this is definitely on their radar. They're very aware that, of our concerns with regard to this, all of this movement. I don't know, Rick, if you mentioned the road that is going to go under. So what they're envisioning currently is that the trucks that you see east of that proposed plat, all of those will have to be necessarily come eastward out to San Isidro and then no, I'm sorry, westward. Westward. My other eastward. The other eastward. Westward, and then they're going to go north, and they're going to go around the roundabout, and then come back down, and then travel under the overpass to go southward. Now, if they want to go northward, they have to go another U-turn and come back around. So that is the short term of how the movements will happen. Now, what is to prevent the trucks from, what's that road? It's not Bear Claw. What's the I always forget. What's the name of it? Buck Fever. I don't know why I was calling Bear Claw. But Buck Fever, it's going to be enforcement. We're going to have to do some enforcement to prevent that right turn movement on Buck Fever. And also the right turn movement on San Isidro that would go northward to, what is it? What's the one that hooks up?
The San Isidro Parkway is up north.
Sandia?
Yeah.
Sandia.
Yeah.
That one. Yes.
So the trucks are supposed to go, after the roundabout, they go east.
Back southward. So that right there, that's a two-way.
Where do they take the south?
They're going to go around the roundabout and come back down southward, and then they'll move right across under the overpass. Can you show them, Rick?
Yeah, so the idea here is,
Like a U-turn.
yeah, the idea is to come up here, there's a roundabout right at this juncture.
Yeah.
And the trucks would take that roundabout, come down south. There's a road that goes under I-35 that come this way and take a roundabout again to get into the, I guess, the westernmost road from the gym to go onto I-35. We had, when we, I was involved in this project up north, which was Antlers Crossing, we had stated at that point that this was a point of concern back then, because what we wanted is we wanted a roundabout or a turnaround under this point here. They were using a city road to provide a roundabout. That roundabout, when it was designed for vehicular traffic, not necessarily turning radiuses for 18-wheelers. And so within that same thought, we're also in talks, and we've talked preliminary with the city, at least with planning and zoning, is this whole area is currently industrial. we're fortunate enough that, and I have to say this in a planning perspective, this plat, it's currently platted. So if you look at the existing plat, it's broken up into roughly around 5 lots, right? Right now, somebody can go get a building permit and build on that. There's a letter of credit for the existing manadas, right? For somebody to go in there and piecemeal that road, it's a difficult, very difficult process. This proposed buyer wants to consolidate everything and build that road at once, at least to get to this point, while these people come and decide to do their own plat. I believe they've also had conversations with the city. Now, we do abut a little piece here where ideally, because of the situation with TxDOT, this is one of those really rare kind of unicorn situations in town. It's very rare that TxDOT does something and then all of a sudden I can only take a right turn lane, whether, I'm residential, multifamily, industrial, commercial. So we're currently in talks. We're about, I believe, off the top of my head, we're about 60 to 70 feet away from Springfield Drive. So hopefully maybe, and that land between our southeast corner and Springfield belongs to the city, to where maybe we can get an out that way and then come down south on Springfield, that's concrete road, and then get on Shiloh and turn right on north. And that's probably something that in the intermediate, like Commissioner Portillo said, right now there's no, Manadas is an existing road that the trucks have no other option but to turn north. That is, that we wish we can do. We wish it would have stayed 2-way. If it's a 2-way road, we take a left and come down south. So maybe the talks that the city must have is, at least within this intersection, can it go back to being 2-way while phase 2 comes into play? I think that's something that maybe after researching some of this, kind of a plan of action tomorrow, that may be probably the best scenario.
One more clarifying question. Can you tell me again, so right now, when the trailers go upward on San Isidro towards the roundabout, how are they supposed to go south?
So this
It
roundabout.
is 2-way from the roundabout all the way to, what's that road right there where it's gonna go under?
So this roundabout,
Is that
you
road
take a right.
there?
This road here, which is San Isidro Parkway, it's a full-blown 65-foot roadway. There's 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south with a turning lane. So they're using that, coming back around, and within this project, they built a road under the bridges.
It's there already?
It's there already.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's there.
Oh, okay, I didn't see
It's there, it just opened.
Oh, okay.
And so the second thing is to try to get kind of like a little quick, kind of little jackknife,
Sort of a U-turn.
a little jackknife to, instead of going all the way to the roundabout, meet up when they're coming back. But based off of TxDOT's parameters, they didn't have enough radius to make that. So that's why they decided to funnel the traffic up north. Now, like I mentioned earlier, in the future, this is going to be a frontage road, and the frontage road is just going to go over and connect from the northern side where it dead ends to the southern side, and then you just keep on going up north.
Yeah, but we don't know when that's gonna happen.
I wish I knew. I wish it would have been tomorrow, but unfortunately.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question for the engineer. There are, if you look at the map of Google Earth, it says this is San Dario, and it runs in front of Legacy Gym, then there's San Dario that runs behind Legacy Gym, and then there's San Dario that kind of turns
yeah.
into the industrial park or the central lines or whatever is back there. What is the possibility that the San Dario that runs between, or behind on the east side of Legacy Gym remains, and that you all would be able to create an exit on the southwest corner, rather than going through city parkland, come out through that San Dario to come back to Shiloh?
And so in our due diligence process for this track, and again, this is also the beauty of combining it into one track. We're right at that southeast corner where we can provide internal circulation to come out, but the main part of this is manadas for the residents on the east to have their out. Cause right now they don't have it, well, they do have an out,
Right.
but it's,
Right
that,
through the middle of
if it were up to us, we wouldn't build that road that we're showing around the perimeter. We would leave it, you know, as is and just, you know, come out. But here, in an effort to kind of consolidate all the lots, make everything a little bit more efficient, we did provide a full-blown road, 50-foot right-of-way, and giving them that out, and that way it could be built now within this project. And right now, there's a pending letter of credit on this. A pending letter of credit that's shared between 5 lots, and I mean, I don't know if the city's had any conversations on calling that the letter of credit, but I think I've seen in 25 years that I've been doing this, I've probably seen the city call on one letter of credit, and that was Del Mar, and I think that was probably like 3% of the total cost of the road. So, but yes, we do have an option there. There are some restraints, but as far as internal circulation, we can probably provide an access to that point. The main thing is for the existing trailers east of us.
Right, and again, looking at that particular track, rather than sending them all the way to the roundabout on San Isidro, or even trying to get them back over here underneath, if you could shoot them back to Shiloh from that southwest corner.
Now, we're not exactly on that line. There is, on this plat down here, there's a shared access that's not a public road. So we have a right to that access, but it's not a public road. So they wouldn't have necessarily access to that shared access. So our track can access that, it's just the existing industrial back here wouldn't.
They would have to come out at Manadas.
They would have to come
Whatever
out
y'all
at
are creating as
Manadas,
Manadas
yes.
Drive. I think that there was a developer who's in that group, it's in the back, that wants to punch out towards Springfield. And, you know, I know the council member's already said he doesn't want folks poking out through city property, even though that one corner is, I think, is still under private development.
So you have a 5-acre tract of industrial. This is an older aerial, but this 5-acre development here has industrial development currently. These are pretty much used as industrial. You can see the trucks. There is a lot here. Yes, that's still owned privately. That's still yet to be determined. But in essence, Manadas is meant to tie in.
Right.
And that's just one of the things that eventually the city is gonna, if we had the overpasses over here, then we can kind of like cul-de-sac it and bring everything here. But in the meantime, they're probably, this is more of a coordination of temporary access and then taken away when the ultimate development comes in. Like I said, and we discussed it, I don't think I've ever seen this scenario here. This is one of the first that I've seen in town. And it's TxDOT does review traffic patterns, and they did review the roundabout. They just don't take into account the component of industrial, the type of development, and that you're going to be rerouting people through, or possibly I can understand staff's concern. They're coming in here, they rather take this way, go north, or come south, and so to them it's like, well, I don't have any other place to go. You took away my 2-way roadway.
Yeah. And so is the consideration, Mr. Chairman, that you guys would come through Manadas as you're designing it now, at the very top where the gas line easement is, swing down, cul-de-sac it, or just terminate it right there while this other development takes place? But eventually you would want to have it continue further south?
So this is currently Manadas, and you can't see it here there you can, you can, I'm sorry. So here it comes, it cuts across here. This got, all our frontage line got switched to one-way going north. South of, right about here's where it goes south. So this is basically keeping that and the parameters. I know it looks funky here, but it looks funky because this 5-acre tract still has to dedicate their portion. The tracts east of us have to dedicate their portion. So we would build the road now, as opposed to it being on a letter of credit. It's an access easement now, currently. I think, I know it's designated as right of way and it got recorded, but it hasn't been accepted, roadway improvements aren't there, so on and so forth. But yes, as per the requirement to have them exit, yes, we are providing that road.
And then is your desire to eventually come out at the southernmost east exit onto Springfield, or do you want to come out at this easternmost?
So on our end, our internal circulation, we would try to utilize, and you can barely see it, it's a 50-foot wide road easement here.
Central lines.
Yeah, all of our stuff. In fact, more than likely, everything's gonna probably come down here, exit, go south, and then come back around on our end. This is more of an issue that on the eastern.
Okay.
And so right now, if you look at these lots, the lots are separated into two currently recorded plats. But somebody can come here and put, this is a recorded lot, they can ask for a building permit, and then now it's kind of like too late. Now these are forced to go north. This lot is forced to go north. We're lucky that we're kind of consolidating everything to bring everything south. Makes sense.
Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Motion to approve subject to staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Item 7C, preliminary consideration of the replat of Lot 15, Block 5, San Carlos subdivision Phase 1, into lots 15A and 15B, Block 5, San Carlos subdivision Phase 1. The intent is residential.
Yes, sir. For the record, the applicant is Rosa Ilia Esteves. Engineer is Sabio Engineering. Proposed use is the zoning for this two-lot development is not applicable, as this tract is located in the ATJ. Location view. Aerial view. As platted and the proposed replat. Staff comments planning. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good evening, PNZ Commissioner. My name is Victor Linares with Sabio Engineering and Associates. I concur with staff comments, and if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Any questions or comments for staff?
Motion to approve subject to staff comments.
Second. We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carries. Moving on to consideration of an extension to the following preliminary plats and preliminary plats. Item 8A. Consideration of a 6-month extension of the preliminary plat approval of Santa Barbara subdivision. The intent is residential commercial. The request is to extend the scheduled expiration date from September 17th, 2024 to March 17th, 2025.
Yes, for the record, the applicant is TXIE Development. The engineer is Guerra Engineering. The proposed use is residential and commercial. The zoning for this 191 lot development is B4 and R1A. The location view. Aerial view. The proposed plat of the extension. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm here representing Mr. Fred Guerra, and I believe it's for the 6-month extension for Santa Barbara.
Okay. Are there any questions, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a
Motion to grant the 6-month extension.
We have a motion by Commissioner Belmontes,
Second.
second by Commissioner Cantu. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Moving on to consideration of the following final plats and final replats. Item 9A. Final consideration of the plat of El Eden subdivision, unit 14. The intent is residential. We have a motion and proposed action on this.
This is motion to approve the final plat.
We have a motion for approval,
Second.
second by Commissioner Portillo, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Moving on to consideration of model subdivision compliance, item 10A, consideration of model subdivision road compliance of the plat of R&W Ranch subdivision phase 7, the tent is residential. Also, I believe this is also requesting approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Before we adjourn, any director's comments?
Yes, I just wanted to, just for the viewing public, at the direction of council, we are working on a Clark Boulevard District overlay. We're in the process of developing a date and time for a prospective town hall. So once we establish, get a little bit more information, we'll definitely let everybody know, the public, and put it on our website and all of that good stuff.
Will the commission also receive an email with that date as well?
We can.
Okay.
We can definitely do that. It'll go through our public information office,
Okay.
so it'll blast to
Okay.
everyone.
All right. Well, thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barone, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries, we're adjourned.